Today, the black dress watches are going up against each other. We have the Seiko SARB033, a classic dress watch from Seiko, and the Tissot Powermatic 80, a underdog in the watch community, as I like to call it, going head to head to see which watch is the best. Let's find out. So the first category in our comparison is value, which is arguably the first thing a watch collector looks at when looking to acquire a new piece. You know, what the watch is going to offer you if you buy the watch. So you may be wondering why I'm looking at these two very different pieces. This is a Japanese-made watch, while the Tissot is a Swiss-made watch. And they come in at very different price points if you look at the manufacturer's website. Well, the truth is that I found this Seiko SARB used in very good condition for $300. And this Tissot I got new off the gray market on sale for about $460. So with a price difference of $150 about, you have to think about the difference in quality and the difference in style and design and feel that these two watches provide. So let's talk about the Seiko SARB033 for just a second. For $300, I don't think you could get a much better watch. It has wonderful sword hands, wonderful second hand, and a date window, has a beautiful brush case, a nice brushed bracelet with a nice clasp, an open case back so you can see the wonderful in-house movement. And it's just a wonderful overall package. Now, what does the Tissot bring to the table? Well, it has the Powermatic 80 movement, which is a modified ETA 2824 movement that has a power reserve of 80 hours. And it's a chronometer, meaning that it's more accurate than other watches. This Tissot is also a black dress watch with a date window, and it also has an open case back, so you can see the movement. Now this watch comes on a leather band, but it has a nice deployment clasp that opens like so. So I think honestly, both of these watches get a 10 out of 10 in terms of value. I think the Seiko is very, very nice, but I think the detail and the extra just level of finishing that the Tissot offers justifies the $160 price increase. So our next category that we're going to look at very briefly is design functionality. How the design and all the features of the watch fit its function. And I think both of these watches are fairly tied here. We have the Seiko SARB033 with applied indices, some nice sword hands. It has some lume that the Tissot doesn't have, and it has a date window. Now the Tissot has all of that, but it doesn't have the lume. So you have to think about the function of these watches. These are both dress watches. Now, I think the Seiko SARB has a little bit more versatility than the Tissot, and we'll get into that in a later section of this review. But that being said, if you were to wear both of these to a business conference per se, I think the Tissot is a little bit more understated, but I think they're pretty much tied here. You wouldn't really wow an audience with either of these watches. But that being said, no one would laugh you out of a conference room. So that all being said, I think the Seiko SARB033 has earned a 9 out of 10 in design functionality, and I think the Tissot has also earned a 9 out of 10. So let's talk about the movement of these two different watches. The Seiko SARB033 has a Japanese-made in-house movement that is the 6R15C. It is in-house, but it is also mass manufactured. So Swiss in-house movements are rumored to be, I don't know how true it is, assembled by hand. This one is probably not assembled by hand. People would assume that, a machine did it and there isn't much love in the movement of the piece. That being said, this watch has the highest power reserve, the second highest power reserve of all of my watches, and it has been the most accurate of the ones that I've tested. I haven't tested the Tissot yet, but I'm assuming that it would be more accurate because it has passed the COSC chronometer ratings. So this watch, the Seiko SARB, my one has gained 3/4 of a second per day, which is amazing, well within the chronometer certification. While the Tissot I haven't tested, but I am trusting that it is going to pass. It is going to be as accurate or almost as accurate as the SARB. The other advantage to the Tissot is that it has a power reserve of 80 hours. And in my tests, the Seiko has had a power reserve of 50 plus hours. So I think the Tissot has an upper hand when it comes to the power reserve, but the SARB I think would have an upper hand when it comes to the accuracy, even though the Tissot is rated as a chronometer. So I think they're fairly tied here. I would give both of them a 9 out of 10. All right, guys, let's move on to the next section, brand prestige. Sorry about that. We have the Seiko versus Tissot. Now, I have a little bit of a prejudice against Japanese, especially Seiko. They've been around forever and their pieces work really well. They have a really good reputation. That being said, the only time I can really think of as Seiko is during Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which is a movie. And the main character is wearing a Seiko, and he doesn't have any money, and he's trying to rent a hotel room. So he takes off his Seiko, and he gives it to the hotel clerk, and the hotel clerk kind of looks at him really poorly. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I have to take this watch. So that's just my personal opinion. I much prefer Swiss pieces personally, if you can afford them. But that being said, this is a wonderful watch. Seiko has been around forever. Their pieces are accurate and it works. So that being said, I would give the SARB033 a 7 out of 10 for the brand prestige. And let's think about Tissot a little bit. Tissot is a member of the Swatch group, and it's in kind of the mid-tier. That being said, it is a Swiss piece, so it doesn't get a knock on it in my book for being Japanese. That being said, it's not, an Omega or a Patek Philippe, so I can't, in good conscience give it a 9 or a 10, but I can give it an 8. So the Tissot pulls ahead. So let's talk about build quality. Something that really blew me away with both of these watches is the level of finishing and attention to detail that was paid when working on the cases of the watch, not just the dials. Both of these have brushed and polished bits. So you can see on the Tissot we have kind of this weave here and some brushing here, and then polish all around the glass. Very, very nice. But I think the Tissot, again, pulls ahead just a little bit. This Tissot is immaculate. It's way beyond my expectations We have the multi-dimensional dial there. There's kind of an inner dial, an outer dial, and then that outer dial kind of chamfers in. The hour indices are beautifully polished, so are the hands, and that level of detail is really missing from the Seiko, and it pains me that it is missing. So I think this Tissot, honestly, it's the best you can get. Like the polishing on the back here, the movement decoration, the level of finishing is just amazing, almost to that top tier level. But I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 either way. And the Seiko, I'm going to give a 9 out of 10. Alright guys, next up we're talking about the style and or design of each watch. I think both of these are pretty evenly matched. They're both dress watches. I think the Tissot is a little bit more understated than the SARB033. But I think it works to its advantage a little bit, dare I say, but not so much that I can give it a full point ahead of the SARB. So I love the design of the SARB. It has the wonderful sword hands, and it has that diamond opposite the second hand, whereas that Tissot has the really nice the different dimension on the dials, where it has kind of a more plain hour indices and hands. So, which one, I don't think either of these, as I said earlier, would stand out in a board meeting. So I think in terms of design, both of these pieces are pretty equal for dress watches. So, wow, I can't pick up the watch there. So for the SARB033, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for design and or style. And then for the Tissot, I'm going to also give it a 9 out of 10. So at this point in our review, the Tissot is a little bit ahead, and this is where the Seiko fanboys will kind of get back. The Seiko is the underdog in this fight. And up next we have Versatility. Now, both of these are black dress watches, but I think the Seiko SARB could be dressed down. I've seen it on green, it looks fantastic. I've seen it on blue, it looks fantastic. You could do leather, black or brown, and it looks wonderful on the stock metal bracelet. So I don't think it's perfect in terms of versatility, but it is pretty damn close. So I would give it a 9 out of 10 on versatility, whereas the Tissot Powermatic 80, it just can't. Like, it can't be put on green and still look good. Maybe a dark green, maybe a dark blue. I just think it looks really, really good on this black or very, very dark brown leather strap, whatever color it is. You guys can argue with me in the comments about that. I just think, it is a dress watch. Like, you can wear it to work. You can wear it to a board meeting. This you can wear all the time, and it's only $300. You don't have to worry about really banging it up, although I try to keep my pieces very nicely in shape, as you can see. So the Seiko, 9 in versatility, as I said. The Tissot, unfortunately, I have to give it a 7. So next, let's talk about performance of these two watches. So the Seiko SARB033 has the 50+ hour power reserve, which is a whole 30 hours less than the Tissot. And now, the one advantage the Tissot has here is that practically you could take this off Friday after you get back from work, and you could put it on again Monday morning before work, and it would still be going. Whereas the Seiko SARB033 only has a 50-hour power reserve, so you're not going to be able to do that. You'll have to wind it and reset it every Monday morning. So in terms of if you're using both of these watches as dress watches, I think the Tissot has a little bit of the upper hand there. That being said, this Seiko movement has a wonderful reputation. 50-hour power reserve is incredible. The accuracy, it also blew me away. It's more accurate than one of my other Swiss pieces even. And you know, I haven't tested this yet, but 3/4 of a second every day is really, really hard to beat. So I can't really say, but I would give both of these an almost perfect score for performance. Seiko SARB033, oh, wow, I totally messed that up. Seiko SARB033, 9 out of 10. The Tissot Powermatic, 80. Chronometer, boom, look at that sexy case back. Also 9 out of 10. Up next, we have durability. The Seiko SARB033, it has a bit of a thicker case. You know, it costs a little bit less, whereas this Tissot has a pretty thin case here, from glass to edge I'm talking about. And both of these don't have crown guards. So I would have to say, you know, I would be comfortable wearing this as a daily wear. Like rain, walking around, you know, if I could bang it up against a wall and I wouldn't feel bad about it. If I bang this up against a wall, I would be horrified, simply because everything is so well finished on the Tissot that any little mark or scratch or ding in this watch will stick out like a sore thumb, because it's not meant to be there. So in terms of durability, I would give this an almost perfect 9 out of 10, while I think the Tissot is a step below that, maybe even a step and a half, but I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So our final category is definitely subjective, and I think it's where the Seiko is ahead right now, but this is where the Tissot really takes the cake. This is a much more contemporary design. I think it's going to age well, but I don't really know. Whereas the SARB033 is a lot more conservative. I really love these sword hands, and I think that adds to the sexiness of it, but I think these hour indices are a little bit unsexy, personally, to me. And I think it's just so conservative, it doesn't awe you at all. Whereas the Tissot, if I saw somebody wearing this, it would be a conversation starter. Not to say that the SARB033 wouldn't be a conversation starter, but I think the Tissot is more likely to stand out in a crowd. So, for the final count, I'm going to give the Seiko SARB033 an 8 out of 10 for sexiness. It's getting there. It's not near perfect. It's a step below near perfect. I need to find a name for that. The Tissot is perfectly sexy. The case back is amazing. The clasp is beautifully brushed here. The dimensions on the dials are beautiful. The different finishings on the case, the signed crown, everything about this watch oozes elegance and class. Not to say that the SARB033 doesn't, but I'm going to give this a perfect score, 10 out of 10, which makes the Tissot a winner with 89 points out of 100, and the SARB033 a very, very close runner-up with 88 points. I hope you guys have enjoyed the review of these two wonderful watches. I hope it has helped you come to a conclusion about which watch to buy next, and we will see you all soon. Bye-bye.